everyone. So today we're going to discuss something about manuscript rejection blues, and it's going to be presented by Dr. M. Bahadur Roka. He doesn't need any introduction among us. So he's currently working in Biratnagar. So I'd like to welcome you, all of you, in this webinar, a series of webinars. We should thank Amida also for arranging such things. So I, along with my co-host Manish, would like to welcome all of you. Good evening, everyone. So shall we go forward, sir? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Oh, sir. So
Okay, thank you very much for the brief introduction. With the kind permission of my moderators and the president of NISON, I'd like to start today's talk, which is manuscript rejection blues, causes and how to deal with it. So basically, the contents are introduction, stages of article processing, just to introduce as to what are the different stages and where you can be rejected, the levels of rejecting, and the causes of rejection, predictors, what to do after rejection, how to reduce the rejection. So basically, we all know that publication of a scientific work is a vital part of a researcher's career and their dreams. We all aspire and dream of publishing more and more, articles each year. And so the other advantage is that it makes this article recognized and is accessible widely. And we all know that colleges and universities nowadays promote academic staff based on the number of publications. And the other thing is, if you know something and you're not publishing it, it's itself unethical and unscientific. But we should also remember that some of the most cited papers in the history of science, which have been accepted, as I'll give you a few examples in the next slide, was previously rejected by referees. So, like in these three examples, all of which won the Nobel Prize later on, like the Krebs cycle, invention of the radioimmunoassay, and the transform spectroscopy in MRI. All these were initially rejected by the editors, but later on they won the Nobel Prize. In fact, there are 8 papers which are even have gone to win the Nobel Prize. So basically, the introduction is that like manuscript rejection is hurting and disappointing, especially if you're a junior or if you're doing the first time, or if you think that is a part of a thesis and you need it, you need that for your promotion or in your academic career. And for juniors, it becomes a big barrier. And many times we target high, journals like maybe Journal of Neurosurgery, but then it takes many years to publish, and in that we may be disappointed. So this has led to many in the developing countries, especially, to publish in a low or low-ranked journals. But however, there is some evidence which I'll show on later on also, that not all of the rejected manuscripts are of poor quality. So the question now arises is that why are some good papers getting rejected? So before we go to that, I'll just give you a brief screenshot of the process of article, life of article, as it said. So what happens is we make a data, we collect something interesting, maybe case report or a research, and then it is prepared with the help of co-authors, and it goes for editorial. And the first step where it may be rejected is the editor's desk. It's called desk rejection. The editor himself may or herself may look at the article and they reject it. The second thing is, if there is something in So these are the 3 steps where the 3 places where it may be reviewed. But even if it looks even if it looks so simple as it is, not that simple, especially for high-end journals. Like the next slide, we can see these are taken from a pictorial from Journal of Neurosurgery. You can see the manuscript, initially manuscript sent to the editor-in-chief or the essay editor, and this is sent to 4 reviewers. Each one have been given 3 points. So on the basis of this, the number of points and the scoring system will be calculated, followed by external ad hoc reviewers. So all of this data is collected again for the final estimated score, goes back to the editor-in-chief, and even if the score is good or bad or whatever, there is again the possibility that it may again be rejected. So what are the rejection rates of good journals? So the rejection rates are basically around 90 to 95% for the top tier journals. For the second tier is around 80 to 85%. So as you can see on the right side, you can see like Journal of Neurosurgery, it has got, more than so much 1,000 papers or something, but acceptance range is around 28%. Go below to Nature, it has got 8,000 articles per year, but acceptance rate is only 9%. Only 9% of the articles submitted to Nature are accepted. If you go to the, or neurosurgery, even neurosurgery, you can find that only 26% of the articles are accepted. So majority of them are rejected, initially in the first reading. So as I said previously, so what are the levels of rejection? First is the outright or the desk. Like you send an article, then the editor has a look and he rejects it. So this occurs in more than around 70 to 80%. So basically what happens is that the editor decides without sending to the reviewers. And the next second thing is 60 to 75% occurs when the reviewers have a look and then they reject. The next stage is rejected but invited to resubmit. This occurs at around 5 to 20%. Of course, there is a probability that it may be accepted, but still it may be rejected. Then the third is rejected and invited to resubmit, as a new article. So this occurs in around 1 to 5% of chances. And lastly, there is a post-acceptance rejection, like you will get a letter that has been accepted, but it may still be common. So what are the reasons why they're rejected without peer review? So first and foremost, I'll give you the basic outline of why they're rejected. Examples citing some top journals in India and Nepal, and in fact abroad also, as to what are the reasons why. So basically, the paper or subject out of scope is not suitable for the journal or the readers. The hypothesis is weak. The basic research is too basic. The methodology is very poor. A small sample size, statistical analysis, a discrepancy between authors, and incorrect referencing style. So when the manuscript is sent to the editor, he just has a look, and these are the few things he'll look into. And the moment he sees either one or any of more than one, he finds any mistake and they immediately reject it. Because as I say that most of the top tier journals, they don't have a shortage or dearth of papers. In fact, their desk is full of papers, and they are more happy, to reject, because it will be a less workload for them and backlog also. The second thing is conflict of interest is not declared, ethical permission is not shown, and informed consent maybe not be appropriate, or sometimes usually there will be a single case report which is banking on the case, on a is very rare, is a very rare finding, very rare, something rare of that sort. But as we all know that most of the good journals are taking case reports because of the load on it, as I said. And the target journal may have published a similar research paper, so that we have to, before submitting, we have to always look as to see in the previous issues and see whether the similar article has been published or not, or suspected or confirmed cases of plagiarism. So after review, suppose it goes for review, what are the chances of why are they rejected? So first thing is the reviewers find that the aims are not right kind of questions, or background is lacking clarity, data is incomplete, methodology section has got major deficiencies, instruction to authors is not followed, figures may be of low resolution. This is also an important thing you have to look in. Tables are too complicated, or they are not comprehensible, and case reports lack pictures and CTA findings, then we don't give the follow-up pictures or what happened to that. Discussion and conclusions don't pose the questions, and there is a mismatch between the statements. The other reasons after peer review is that editors, they feel that the authors have not worked hard enough. It's a very preliminary written in a very simple type of way. A lack of key elements of good research, which mainly, as we all know, is comprises of strong hypothesis, flawless methodology, well-presented results, and good recommendations or conclusions. And the references are not as per the journal style. And finally, of course, which is very common, especially for developing countries, is non-English native speakers, is that of poor language and many spelling and grammatical mistakes. And as I said, sometimes it could be rejected even after acceptance. So in this case, is either because of plagiarism, like you find that it's been self-plagiarized, or you have already used that data to some other article, or double publication, which we have seen in the last 1 or 2 years is quite common. It occurred in 2 or 3 articles even in Nepal. So, but basically, what the the WME, like World Association of Medical Editors, they say is that once the article has been accepted, it is very, very unethical for editor to reject it unless there is some special solid ground for that. In fact, I've given a link over there. There's a good discussion on one of the articles which was accepted and then rejected, and then there's a good discussion of other people. So in case everyone to read on that, because the editor has a moral and ethical responsibility for ethical means not to reject the article. So what are the common words which are used for rejection? Like outright rejection, if it's registered from the desk, it's said can be submitted to other journal, it's unsuitable for readership, it's not relevant, or maybe you could send it to some other audience. And although its interest, is still it has got some flaws, and we do not accept some also related articles. Or if after peer review it could be unacceptable in its current form, it requires a major or minor revisions, it will be more suitable as a brief report or maybe letter to the editor or something else, and it needs to be completely restructured. The reviewer has raised some serious concerns, and it does not comply with the journal. So those are the basic reasons why basic common reasons why an article could be rejected once submitted to the journal. But now I'd like to give some examples because I could say that, but we need data as to why exactly. So I'll give some examples from different journals, a few journals, to see why. So first one is this is a very interesting one. Like the 83 questions were mailed to a random sample of people. Basically, 50 were reviewers from the JMA. As you know, that JAMA is one of the top tier journals in the world. 67 editors in chief from prominent other medical journals. 25 Nobel laureates were even given the question, and there were 25 journals with the largest circulation and 25 with the highest impact factors. So, I don't want to read all the questions, but I'll read around 10 or 15 like common causes. So the first question was, what is the single most common type of flaw that results in outright rejection of a manuscript? So as you can see, the 71% of the people said it was the design of the study. So when we read or when we are going through these trials, we should understand that these are the things which should not be done when we are submitting article to any journal in the world. So the design of the straw should be flawless. The second question is, which section usually contains the most flaws? So of course it is the methodology. Then which section is most responsible for outright rejection is method. So basically, as you can see, the first three questions is the method or methodology itself of the article which is not up to the mark of the journal. Then what the deficiencies in interpretation, like conclusion is not supported by data. Like whole study, you will have given some studies or some results, but in the end you conclude something else. Something you give a topic on all of heredity, then you give a conclusion of something else. So conclusion, and we should make sure that both of them are related to each other, and data is inconclusive. Fifth question was, which of the following deficiencies is most responsible for rejection? Again, the results are unoriginal, predictable, or trivial. So this means that whenever we write an article, we always think or we feel or believe that it's a new or we're adding something new. But we have to make sure or go back to the literature and have a search and see whether actually is real or not. Because as I said, one of the common causes which you will see in the other presentation also, other journals, is that results are unoriginal in the sense that it has already been published in the same or similar form or in that data. Then the next question was, which of the 8 deficiencies most present? You can see the inadequate or appropriate presentation of the data, and the rationale is confused or contradictory to each other, and failure to give a detailed explanation of the experimental design. So basically what we can see is that the methodology, the design of the study, so these are very, very important, and initially that's what the editors look into. Then, of course, again, that same question, poor methods, inadequate results, poor presentation. When it comes to design and interpretation, what is the most common? So again, you said research design problems, they design the methodology. So as we can see that answers, they are focused around the design, methodology, statistics, The next question, number 9, it says that failure to collect data or tables that could influence the interpretation of data. That we should, when you're studying data or giving statistics, we should always involve confounding factors. Because if we don't involve that, then there's a possibility that our studies or results may be biased, good or maybe even bad. Then biased sample, which reduce the representativity of the population, and confounding factors, as I said just now. And finally, in writing deficiencies, the most common problem on rejection was because of wordiness, poor, poor flow of ideas and grammar and all those things. And redundancy is also quite common, especially where like you keep on repeating the same thing in different sentences or different, you change, but your meaning is always the same. So this is another journal from India, basically medical and dental. As you can see that the number of articles submitted by 522, out of them 233 were rejected. Okay, so the number one cause why they were rejected is that it is common. As I said, like normally when we give or study or find some like do some research, we feel that it may be new, but as I said, it may not be as new or that new as we think about. So we have to rule out commonness in that. The second thing is non-compliance of author. This is quite common actually, even in Nepal. So like in my experience also, I found it quite common. Like the article comes, then you you keep some make some major minor changes, then you send back to the author. Then you give a time of like 1 week or 2 week or 3 week. Then that the author is not compliant. They forget it. They don't respond to you. You know, I mean, we keep on encouraging, and the editors will keep on encouraging. But I think there's a limit to that. As in this journal, they have given it most common cause, second most common cause. For all those authors who did not comply, replying back, they have rejected the article. Then issue, then plagiarism, which is quite common in South Asian countries, and the fifth number is that they have received the same topic which has been published earlier. Okay. And the other reasons, as we have discussed earlier, data inconsistency, incomplete cases, medical mismanagement, and one case over is a blacklisted author, like author who has been previously given a letter of warning or plagiarism, or he has submitted 2-3 articles making false articles. So those are also blacklisted authors. The another journal, this is a gynae journal from India again. As you can see, the most common cause is poor methodology. So what we have to focus whenever we are writing an article or presenting or researching on the data is the number one is the poor methodology. Second thing is no new information. Whether we have to see whether it's really adding anything to the literature or not. Like banking, as I said previously, banking or rarity is a case report, is a first time in Nepal or first time in Eastern Nepal or first time world, something like that. So those things do not add much. Then poor scientific content, and finally case reports of low priority and similar papers. So similar papers in literature. Finally, scope. You have to make sure you have chosen the right journal for the right article. So this another journal. This on cerebrovascular diseases is a very high prestige journal. So in this, the editor was, and they said inappropriate journal format not followed, issue is not interesting or of scientific clinical value. Topic is like, as I said, is no longer hot or current. Like we may feel it's a very hot topic, but maybe in the last 1 year there was too many articles. Like right now we got till up to last 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, there were around 20 or 24,000 articles on COVID in the world. So maybe initially the articles were interesting, like we also shared so many articles on the effects of COVID on the nervous system. But now it's not as hot or current as it is. So now if you want to publish an article on COVID, it has to be something really, solid in that. Not original or new, journal priority. Like many times the journal has got priority. Like maybe this year we're going to talk, their issues will be mainly on head injury or maybe vascular diseases. And in that case, there is a probability if you send something of trauma, then it may not be accepted. Poor writing style or methods or statistics. The results are not believable. You may give something, but you can't believe. Of course, if the editors or reviewers don't believe, doesn't mean you're wrong, but maybe it could be wrong also. A recycled paper. So one thing like what you have to know, especially in foreign journals, is that the reviewers sit in more than one journal. You send an article to one journal, then you reject it, and they give you some advice. Then you again send it to another journal, and maybe you have been lazy enough not to change what they had advised. So the probability is there is some probability that the same reviewer may be sitting in there. So in that case, obviously, there is no chance of your article getting through. So this is finally one editor from the Elsevier. He was asked to cite the 8 most common reasons, and this is what he said. The article has elements suspect to be pressurized or under review, is incomplete, English is not sufficient, figures are not clear, It does not conform to the guidelines for authors. References are incomplete and very old. So that's another important thing which you have to notice. It's when we are giving references, preferably we should try to give, new, because over the years the treatment or the outcome would have changed. So you cannot give on 1980s or 90s or something like that, unless of course is such a case or such a study that which has not been done. It does not fall within scope of the aims and scope of the journals. The procedure or analysis data is defective, lacks proper study methodology. The conclusions cannot be justified, as you said. Conclusion is a very important part of the study, because many times the readers, they go read the abstract, then they go to the result, the methodology, and to the conclusion. So if it's not proper, then it cannot be accepted. The arguments are illogical, and basically conclusion ignore the last like major portions of the literature. As I said earlier also, you would have done a good study, but in the conclusion you give a wrong conclusion. So that would be detrimental to the acceptance of the of the letter. And finally, a simple or a small extension of a different paper. Like many times you have got a large research and you chop it up into many pieces and try to make it interesting or make it something out of it, and it's incomprehensible. Finally, it's boring. Like, in fact, the word itself boring is a very subjective word, because it may be interesting to somebody else, but that's what the editor said. So what about our journal of Nepal Journal of Neuroscience? Till now we have had 4 editor-in-chiefs. Presently, Amit is the running editor-in-chief, and this is what is our experience and all from my seniors. Like, first is not adhering to the journal style. When the articles are sent, is been just written as though it's been written for some other purpose or for the sake of writing. It's got poor methodology. The conclusions and objective there's a mismatch. There's failure to prove or disprove the initial hypothesis which was given initially. And the major problem determinant of our most of the studies is poor language. Also, there's a lot of grammatical mistakes, syntax errors. There's a lot of repetition and redundancy of words. References are almost never to the journal style, except for some papers. So until last year, even I think till now also, we are the ones who are correcting the references to the journal style. Then there's plagiarism, of course, and ethical clearance. So by now we would have known that rejection is normal. That there's nothing to be disheartened about it. It is normal. It's like going to be a COVID virus. It's going to be everywhere. Initially, you may think that is COVID. You may have exposure, but there's nothing, because it's normal. 80 to 90% of if you look at yourself, or if you look at your experience, or maybe your seniors, then 90% definitely would have their work rejected, and 50%, maybe they are not writing, or maybe they are not admitting that the article is being rejected. So in fact, one of the articles that written is like rejection of article is like marriage. Like 50% of all marriages, I don't know Nepal, but maybe abroad, end in divorce. But in spite of that, all of us, we are getting married every day, and we hope everything will be good. But we also know that like 73% of divorcees have got chances of divorcing again. Like very divorce unsa. Papers at least we have got a good chance. We have got a good chance, which I'll show you again later on, that it may again be published in second or third generation submission, maybe in some other journal with a higher impact factor. So what to do when the manuscript is rejected? So first thing is keep calm. You'll never publish management. So you have to keep calm. So do not be aggressive and impulsive. Array, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, why didn't you do this? It's not a fit of anger. You should never write an email or give a letter, because we should know that 50% of rejected manuscripts are published within the next 2 years. So that's a very, very good thing. So reject bhai because 50% definitely they are going to publish it. And published papers, this is also another interesting finding, is that published papers have got a history with the rejection. They are cited more often. So maybe the initial the research which was good, but it did not catch the eye of the editor or the peer reviews. So if you really think your research is good, you should just keep on trying. So this has been compared to the Kubler-Ross stages of grief, like denial. Like the question is, Maybe they send me the wrong decision by or decision letter mala pathaya kya? And I should check again. I should check the website. I should mail to them, maybe call them and find out, editor, why did you, is this for me? Denial. Then it could be anger. How many patients do you want? How many articles do you want? How many references do you want? What else do you want? The reviewer, has he even read my paper? What is the proof that he has read my paper? My study is definitely better than the others. Okay, that's the anger. Then the bargaining. Maybe I should Gumara Alikate Leknu Pareki, or you can write, dear, maybe Bhagwan Pashupatinath, I know I've been, Mandir Gaukasai, but kindly you make him editor to change his mind. Or it could be depression, like, and I am issues of the Barbad Vaima, like I'm not to get my promotion or whatever. Then last on all, you will have acceptance, which I'll show you again by another study. So this is the data to show what happens to the previously rejected manuscripts. Hello? Hello? Sudan?
Yeah, listening.
Hello, Ajay sir. Everyone is listening, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I can't see my video, no, so I don't know whether I'm being audible.
Oh yeah, it's clear.
So this is the data which shows what happens to the articles which are rejected. So as we can see in this, these are different studies of different years. As we can see, this is the percentage. So 75, 73, 69, 50, 54. So these are the percentage of articles which have been published after rejection, and these are the different journals or area of interest. So there is nothing disheartening about being rejected, but you have to wait. Obviously, I mean, your initial goal may not be achieved, but you have to wait. Like as you can see, 2 months, 4 months, So definitely, your article, there's a probability that it will be published. Of course, this was the Kubler-Ross, which I saw. So what to do? So first thing is you get rejected. What you can do is put an appeal. Like, can you look into it? You can resubmit with changes. You can make changes and then submit to another journal. You can, no change and then different journal, or you can abandon at the end. So appeal is that appeal should be based on logic and not emotion. Like, I need it for promotion, or I need it badly, or something like that. Your article should be based on logic. So you should give your points, what you have done, what is the outcome, what was the new thing which you have studied. You can again, second option is to resubmit to the same journal again. So resubmit later. You look at the reviewers' comments, you correct them, then send it again. Or if you're not, but if sometimes you get a letter that they're not interested in any future versions, then you should accept it as that is the full stop and that's the end. There's no point in again trying again. Then finally, you can make changes and submit to a different journal. So this is by far the most common, which is done all over the world. So you comment, you correct, you do all the checkup, and then you send it again to another journal. Sometimes you can make no changes and submit to another journal. Like you feel that your study is very good, there's no flaws, then you can send it. But as I said that when the reviewer gives his opinion, they have spent some time in reviewing, they have studying, doing their research and finding out the flaws, because nothing is done on a personal basis. So it's for that reason that it's always advisable that you correct the reviewers' issues first, then only you send to another journal. And as I said previously, sometimes the reviewers, they sit in more than one journal. So there's if it again falls to the same person, then definitely is going to be rejected. And finally, the last option is file the manuscript and never submit it. If you think that, is really useless, or if it is valuable, you don't want to, then there are some, other like as this website says, you can go to +1 journals or PAG, or maybe even go to there are some websites like Flickshare or Drive, where you can submit to the journals and it is even citable and it's also freely accessible. So there are options. So can we predict rejection? This was an interesting study which was done in December 2019. This is called the manuscript rejection syndrome, Maziri syndrome. So out of 32 articles were there which were rejected 93 times. The median age of the author was 37 years, and the first-time authors were 60%, and males were 80%. Okay, so this what this study showed was that, as in this case, this is the demography. First of the 60%, journal impact factor was around 5.2 to 17. Is 1 to 3 times. Pre-submission expectation is very high. like, okay, they'll accept it, is very good. Then external review, it was sent for was 58%. And decision work for duration like of acceptance or rejection was around 1 to 6 weeks. And the grief hours also they have studied. Like I think under summer, you were sad or depressed or feeling bad. So average was around 3 hours. And this, so this one you can see over here. If you send for external review, if you're the first author, if you have got a free high submission rate, and maybe a mail. So in that case, the chances of going into the Misery syndrome, NET, Misery syndrome is quite high. So finally, what to do? How to reduce, reject authors? So this starts from the authors itself. So first thing, from the beginning, you have to relevant journal for the submission. You have to look into the journal guidelines for the authors, scopes, characteristics, expectation, everything. Then you should write with a clear methodology, statistics, language, description of the data, figures, description, everything. And even if it's rejected, then use the suggestions of the reviewers. Then restructure it, rewrite it, then give it to the same journal, maybe submit to another. And editors also have got a role in that to reduce rejection. So first thing is you have to select the appropriate reviewers for a particular paper. Like there's a case of head injury, then you give to somebody who's doing only spine, for review. So that doesn't make sense. So inappropriate selection leads to either acceptance of a low quality paper, because sometimes the reviewer may say, oh, something has been sent to me, so let me accept it. Or it may be rejected. There may be rejection of a good paper. Okay? The second thing is, if rejected due to lack of interest or readers' expectations, then you should always give an explanation why it is being rejected, so that authors can make a, help them make a decision as to what to do or what changes has to be done by submission or resubmission. And finally, if it's not fit, again you have to give advice, or maybe you can give them advice as to you can send to the this journal. Like if you send to Journal of Neurosurgery, they'll, if it's spine case, they'll always ask you to send to Journal of Neurospine or Journal to Pediatric Surgery, in that case. Then finally, reviewers also have got a responsibility. You should be flexible while evaluating the merit of a paper. Should keep a balance between the importance of the study topic, appropriateness of the use, methods used, and findings and limitations of the work. Okay? And you should be objective and specific while providing feedback, and should not give any general negative comments. Then finally, the role of publishers also. You should promote open access publications to increase the capacity of acceptance, because many of the high tier journals are, you have to, for each article you have to pay $300, $400, dollars or something like that. And increasing the number of journals that publish papers with negative results, because many times we find that, in fact, almost all of the articles, they deal with positive results. Negative, if you give a negative results, the possibility of its rejected is very high. And then dividing the reviewers with some proper acknowledgement. So what of the country of origin rejection? Is there any correlation? Not many articles I could find on the internet, but this is one from the Journal of Neurosurgery, in 1997. As you can see, this is the number of manuscripts received, and this is the number of manuscripts which have been accepted. Of the United States, around 1/3 of them are accepted. But where it comes to other countries, as you can see, it becomes less and less, the number of. So we don't know, but there was another article, which another article, which says that favoritism or partiality based on the country of origin of manuscript is of less, but it was one of the reasons of rejection of journal like article. Like if we send the article to JNS or maybe Europe or America, if they see from Asia, Nepal or India, there's a probability that it may be rejected from the desktop itself without the editor even having a look at it. So this is the summary as to what to do. Rejection of letter is received. Determine type of rejection. If it's conditional, change, then submit a well-prepared article. If there's a chance it could reject. Or if you want, you can give up. In that case, there is no chance of publication. You should forget about publication. If it's outright rejection, then you have to think the reason. If it's not suitable for the journal, then you could improve it and send it to some other journal, maybe a lower impact journal. Then probability of publication is high. If there's some fatal flaws like which cannot be changed, or there's definitely something wrong, then I think it wouldn't be accepted anyway. So conclude, rejection is a part of academic life. As I've shown that many even Nobel laureates have had their articles rejected. So we should not be disheartened. We should keep calm. We should do the correction and then try to for some other journal. Grief should be overcome as soon as possible. Do not be in anger right to the, I did this, I did that, you did not accept, or all that. And there are many reasons for rejection. You should always look for the comments, restructure, and resubmit to appropriate journal. And some papers never reach a reviewer. Like, at least we should be happy that reviewer has a good look through it and he has given us a good comment or good feedback. And if possible, do not abandon, because as I said, any contribution to the medical literature is of value to at least someone else, or it would be a value to someone else in future. And if it definitely is a good research or good finding, then we should make sure that we publish it, because not sharing any or finding or anything new in the literature itself is unethical. So as I lastly said, you should just keep on publishing like Nike or Johnny Walker does. Never go down, but always keep up, so that we contribute to the scientific world. And for further reading, you can go to, there's one on ResearchGate. This is a very post. It has got maybe hundreds of comments on that, on what, when the article is selected, and all of the references which I've cited in this. And this all again some other, answers in detail. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your short and sweet presentation about the publication and its rejection. So till now, we are not getting any questions in here. Is anybody going to raise hand? Manish, do you have something to say?
I just have one thing to ask. One matter question rejection, say, how much does it depend on the title of the paper? Just a headline or title interesting reject. How do you say about that? The title is not interesting.
Title also is a very important part. Like, it's also part of the write-up as to what you're going to write. Because like as I said initially, there's the title, the abstract, and then the conclusion, which is screened through by the editors or reviewers. So we should make it very appropriate, very short and precise. And like I think in the previous topics also, Dr. Praveen Darmon sir has also talked on that. The title should be as concise and precise as possible. And of course, it should be informative.
Yeah, Dr. Mohan, in his presentation, Mohan sir was saying something like the title has to be finished in one breath, in one spell. So that will be the better one.
Very few journals could say because the guidelines the theme of the paper title may reflect certain journals in their author guideline to. So do you suggest writing the theme or conclusion in the title itself?
Well, I think it depends on what you're writing and how to write it. Because like many journals, they've got a limitation of words on the title. So within that word limit, you have to finish everything out. So I think it all depends on your English, how good you are, or how you write it out.
So anybody has any queries? Praveen Bhai?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Yam, for presenting such details only about this rejection. It seems rejection is a very small word, and there will be hardly anything that we can present on this topic. But you presented so nicely, and it was really educational. Thank you for that. Just to add few things, यदि मैले review गरे भने in my own experience, evaluate whether we accept the article, manuscript, or we reject. So one of those things which clicks my mind whenever I review any article is one of the first things is language, because language starts from the beginning till the end, and especially language is very, very important. I think in introduction heading, and then discussion heading. So in the introduction portion, language matters a lot because if everything else is fine, but language is so unclear what the author is exactly willing to state, what he is exactly trying to prove or disprove. If these things are not clear, if the language is poor, if the spellings are words are misspelled. These things also I think matters a lot. So before we evaluate the whole paper, if the language is not so good, if the language is so poor, and we as a reviewer hardly understand what exactly the author is going to say, then I think that matters a lot. So of course, everything is very important in case of writing an article or manuscript, but language is very, very important. It's one of the most important things, as Dr. Yam said. So language should be as simple as possible. It should be short sentences, not the long sentences, and words should be simple. Grammar should be correct. If these things we write in a very simple way, then there is a possibility that reviewers give more interest in reading the whole article, and finally there is a possibility, higher possibility, that the manuscript will be accepted if other parts of the manuscript is good. That is one thing that I would like to add. And another thing is, of course, there is a possibility that your paper manuscript may be rejected, or may be sent back to the author, back to you, with some major or minor, revisions. If the article is sent back to you with minor revisions, then of course there is a higher possibility of acceptance later once you resubmit it after correcting those things asked by the reviewer. Even if the reviewer is asking for the major revisions, so I suggest you better follow the instructions given by the reviewers, rather than not submitting the article again, or rather than submit the article in another journal. Better submit to the same journal if you are asked for the major, even if major revisions. So if you address all those things correctly and send back to the same reviewer or same journal, then I think there's a higher possibility of acceptance. So instead of all those different options given by Dr. Yam, the better option will be review it as suggested by the reviewers and resubmit it to the same journal. Then I think that will be better. I think this is what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Pravindai. Thank you, Pravindai. We got a couple of questions here. Sabal Sapkota is asking, if you know the editor-in-chief well, articles will be published easily. What's your view?
Well,
What do you have to say?
It could be a possibility, but if you see, if we see foreign journals in particular, many of them will have an author which is quite common to most of them. There is a well-known, neurosurgeon, like let's say Weinstein or something. He's a very well-known neurosurgeon. And these articles, you will find that he may be in the second, third, or maybe fifth, or even sometimes eighth or ninth, list in the authors, but his name will be there. So in that case, I think article, one reason why it may be published is because of the complete trust people have on that person and on his scientific background, and on his authenticity and his it could be like the journal believes in him because he has done similar research or helped to do similar research, and with his background of flawless research, it could be a possibility that that's why they accept. Regarding the editor-in-chief, there is a possibility, but editor-in-chief within his ethical and his limitations, I'm sure even if you know him, he may speed up. Like if it was in the next journal, he may try to keep it in the forthcoming journal, but he has to oblige to the rules he has to stay within the rules of the journal, and he has to oblige by conforming to the rules of what the journal determines.
I hope Sabal is happy with the answer. Sabal, you got your answer?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So Manish, you're going to read out the next long question?
Yeah. The next question is a very long one, and it's from Dr. Rupendra Badra. So here the question goes. Due to less number of articles, we are not in a position to reject more of the manuscripts that we receive. And many a times the editors review the whole manuscript and resend it to the authors. And the primary authors, they don't seem to bother to change the format, like referencing. So this is in the local journal will be reflected in the good articles that those authors submit in the international journals as well. So can you highlight similar plights, and what's your opinion on this?
I think if the question is for me, then it is very common. Like journal language, referencing, style of working is very, very common, especially when it's given to LJNS. And as I said previously, most of would have all the editor-in-chief or reviewers and editorial board has done is that We have ourselves corrected the referencing style. If I written some of the conclusions and all, so it is quite common. And as you have rightly said, that this habit should be stopped, because next time when you write to a good journal, then you again doing the same thing, and they don't have time for all this. Like as I said, journals, they have got a rejection rate of 90%. Who has got the time to read through when the initial referencing itself is wrong? So we should stop that habit, and we should try to improve on it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So we just got is it a question or what it is? There is some comment in here. I'm a very junior doctor in this forum and don't know if my voice is worth raising here, but I have forever been a neurosurgery, neurology enthusiast from the early days of my medical career. I have learned a lot from my mentors, Dr. Pant, Dr. Rajiv, and have a very long way ahead. Jamesh, you are very well known to all of us. My question is, as MSR has pointed out, the presence of certain limitations in Nepal, Journal of Neuroscience, how is nation taking steps to ameliorate them? Thanks a lot for providing me this opportunity to attend this meeting. Yeah, you're welcome, Jamesh.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, sorry, so then you're saying something.
Yes, sir, you may go ahead.
Okay, I think we should start from the previous editor-in-chief. Then I think Dr. Praveen will speak, then I could give my voice, and then our present editor-in-chief, Amit, would like to give the maybe final words. Dr. Praveen, can you give your feedback on this?
So what are these steps?
Sorry, sorry. If somebody can answer better, answer garda huncha. Otherwise, can I have question once again?
The question is. Questions journal. The presence of certain limitations in Nepal Journal of Neuroscience. How is nation taking steps to ameliorate them? To decrease this limitations of our journal.
Limitation of our journal. Well, Nepal ma hamro journal suru bhako NGNS was started in 2004. So it's already 15, 16 or maybe 17 years that NGNS was started. In between, it was stopped because of various reasons, some technical problems, because of lack of manpower and many other reasons. And it was again restarted. And since, if I remember correctly, from 2007, it's been very regular on print. Initially it was twice a year, then thrice, four times a year. I think it is still 4 times a year, and it is online also. So, definitely it takes time for any journal to grow up, to become a standard journal. To become a popular journal. Agi Rupendrale pani bhandai थियो कतिपय कुरा एडिटर आफैले पनि गर्नुपर्छ भनेर. Probably that was one of our limitations long back. अहिले सायद त्यो समस्या अलि कम पनि छ होला. अहिलेसम्म हामी 4 जनाले काम गर्ने जर्नलमा एज अ चिफ एडिटर सबैको अनुभव त्यस्तै छ होला. सुरुमा पढ्दाखेरि चाहिँ इट युज टु बी लाइक एसे निबन्ध लेखेको हो कि कथा लेखेको हो कि भने जस्तो पनि पर्थ्यो. अघि मैले ल्याङ्ग्वेजको कुरा गरेँ. So it used to be like essay or long story or without any methodology, something like that. So that time we used to write the whole article from A to Z, and to give feedback to the authors for some simple correction, because otherwise he or she will not come back again. So just to make him or her understand about her own article, we used to give them some feedback, and we also used to get back from the author. Then we used to publish their articles. So that was the time we had long back. But at the moment, मेरो बिचारमा त्यस्तो big limitations चाहिँ अरु त छैन होला. And now NGNS has become one of the most popular journals in Nepal, at least. So we are getting many more articles in NGNS at the moment, and probably पहिला जस्तो धेरै अब दुःख गर्नुपर्ने एडिटर आफैले सबै लेखेर चाहिँ सच्याउनु पर्ने त्यस्तो बाध्यता पनि सायद अहिले एकदमै कम छ होला. So well, I don't know exactly, but at the moment I must appreciate all the chief editors and editors of NGNS, and also all the authors and contributors of NGNS, that as a result of your contribution, NGNS has come to this stage. So अहिलेको स्टेजमा त्यस्तो ठुलो लिमिटेसन छ जस्तो लाग्दैन. Some अझै पनि probably we have less or fewer peer reviewers who are really interested or dedicated. त्यो पनि एउटा हुन सक्ला. I also feel sometimes we have lack of really good authors without any revision needed. त्यो पनि अलिकति सानो लिमिटेसन सक्छ. Otherwise, at the moment, I think NGNS is good enough with much less limitations, I think.
Hazur, sir, you have to clear
म
something.
बोल्न है त म बोल्न हजुर
Okay, Hazur, Krishna sir, please sir.
Okay, I mean chief editorहरूले भन्नुहुन्छ होला तर I think on behalf of nation definitely ultimately it's a responsibility of the author to give a very good paper, but I'm sure there's a lot of learning curves. As Dr. Yam presented today, there are many objective factors to get your paper accepted or rejected. However, there are lot of subjective matters also, as well as I think little bit of luck whether your paper is accepted or not. What nation is doing or can do is promote, of course, and one of these attempt is like there have been almost every year one CME on methodology and statistics and how to write papers. And I think individual institutions also are conducting these programs. And more or less, I think it's a blessing in disguise that during this lockdown, we have had almost 5-6 such talks on how to write a good paper. These are all learning things, and I think for juniors as well as seniors, there's a room for correction to write a good paper. And as Praveen just said, so that the write-up can be flawless, no need of corrections, and following all the rules and regulations of that particular journal would be has a high chance of acceptance. I think nation role is just to educate and promote, and I think with everybody's help, that's what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yam, sir.
I also similar, like in the initial stage, I think we are having a dearth of articles. That's why we used to promote each and every type. But nowadays, with the increasing number of members in the society and the number of facility in Nepal itself, we are doing a very good job especially in research or clinical, or maybe case report, any other thing. So when we are nowadays, we are getting more and more good inflow of papers. So now we have come from previously once or twice a year, we have thrice a year, publication number has also increased. So with this, this is all keeping in view the number of articles which have been submitted. If the articles were less, then there was no point in increasing the number of publications per year. But since the articles have increased over the last few years, since 2018, the number has publication has also increased. So that the aim is to wish, or like what we should understand that what we are doing in Nepal is, of course, it is of international standard, but it is to be, the readership is amongst Nepalese itself. So with that in view, if we have something doing in Nepal and we publish in a Nepalese journal, so it is more, it will be beneficial to all of us. Of course, I'm not saying that we should not, stop publishing outside. We should do it also. But with that in view, as Dr. Krishna has said, NJNS is always encouraging authors, even with minor, mistakes. We always ask them to correct and then try to get it published. And recently, what is the recent trend? Maybe Amit would like to add something.
Amita, you would like to add something?
Thank you once again, Dr. Yam. You have done a very marvelous job of actually summarizing and presenting forward in a very lucid way what are the different reasons for rejection. First of all, let me answer this question. There are certainly many limitations to NJNS. So one is the controversial. Even with the controversial, if in case you see, over the recent years have actually been expanded outside the neurosurgical forum. So people from neurology, neuroradiology, even general medicine and general surgery people are actually contributing the articles. And if you see over the last few issues, almost 20 to 30% of the contributions are actually from outside Nepal or outside the neurosurgeons community. So that actually speaks of that our journal is being read of and people are getting having a good view of our journal. Apart from that, as editor-in-chief, our idea is to promote as much as research work in Nepal. So for us, none of the data which any of the author is presenting is a waste. So we want to create a space for every data. But then the problem is that if we have to increase our indexing levels for our journal, then we have to have good citations of each of our article which is published. And our articles which are published in the journal will only be cited by other articles if in case they have a very standard manner of conducting a research, the results are authentic, as well as the discussion is point to point and has actually clarified each and every result. So that's something which is being seen for every citation. So for citation index, it is important for us that each of the articles which is published in a single issue is cited as many times as possible. And that's why from the editorial board side as well as on the peer review side, our effort is actually to improvise the article as much as possible. So even if anybody is getting a rejection or lot of peer review stuff, please do not get disheartened, because this is for you. The quality of the paper which you are publishing is going to improve. And henceforth, whenever you're sitting for an interview, any of that stuff, if your article is being cited many times, then definitely that speaks of a lot of good work which you have done. So ultimately, it's not the number of the article which you're publishing. Ultimately, it is the number of citations which you are getting for each of the article which is more important. So publish less, but publish that much that which has too much of citation is actually a very good representation of a good research work. So other limitation which we recently are having is basically the crunch of the official staff. We need to have a lot more of people who look for the language. We need to enroll a statistician who can actually done a lot of the statistics works of each of the articles, because that has to be reviewed. And if in case some author requires any statistical research help, then that suppose can be given by the SGRA. So we are actually have a lot of plans for our engineers to improve, and we are definitely working towards it. But then my request to all the contributors are that the journal can be PubMed index or can be led to a very high level only with the participation of the authors and the research work. So the better the research work is published, the better the citations that each article gets, the journal actually moves ahead by its own. So that's a little remark. And then apart from that, we have recently introduced checking for plagiarism for each of the articles. So I'm thanks many of the reviewers are actually doing their own plagiarism check for each of the articles. So each of the articles get a screen for plagiarism. So if in case the plagiarism reports for a very high amount of degree of plagiarism for each of these content of the article, then we actually ask the authors to paraphrase the statement rather than copy and pasting. Other than that is the issue of the pictures, which Dr. Yam has raised, is very vital. I have seen that most of the pictures which are being submitted with an article, rather than being a representative one, actually they just click the whole scan and then send it with the article. That speaks very bad of a research work, because that means that we are not focused on a single image. We actually supplying the whole CT scan or a whole MRI, and then leave it to the readers to identify their own point of interest. So my suggestion to every author is that if in case you're sending a picture, it's always a better idea to put asterisks or an arrow to denote what is the point of interest, so that that particular thing becomes focused. So that is it. And if in case if any of the authors or the peer reviewers or readers have any issue, please write to us. NGNS is always very committed to answer to your queries as soon as possible. So our return back time has actually decreased. So you may have realized recently that whenever you send an email to our NGNS Gmail, then immediately you get a response. So we try to decrease on the response time as much as possible. But definitely peer review process is something which we cannot have a control over. We request all our peer reviewers to return the review as soon as possible within 2 weeks. But then usually we're still finding that the peer review process is taking a month and sometimes even 3 months. And then just to maintain the integrity of the journal, we are not breaking this order. We are actually asking for at least 2 reviewers for every of the articles, so that we can maintain the integrity of the journal publication. Thank you, Sir. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Amit. Manish, I think there is another question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There is another question for Dr. Young from Manoj Bora, and he is asking that some journals, even high impact ones, they ask for the preferred reviewers while submitting the paper. So do you think it's a good idea to submit names of our preferred reviewers and may increase chances of acceptance? What may be the idea behind asking preferred reviewers to the authors?
That's an important question which we have all faced when many times we have also submitted to journals and asked to do the same. And then it puts us in a dilemma as to whose name we have to give, and whether whether he would reciprocate in the same manner or no. But let's see what Amit has to say. Amit, yeah.
Well, actually, I started this process. If you see, the present NJNS demands a cover letter, and the cover letter actually requests all the authors to put the name of the reviewers which they want to put across, or if in case you do not want certain reviewers' name to be put in the reviewers list. The idea behind doing this is because peer review process actually demands a review by that person who is a specialist in that subject. So if in case an author is putting anybody's name in the reviewers list, then the person should be able to understand that that particular reviewer is an expert on that topic. Please do not give names of those people who are known to you. Rather give names of the people who are either subject expert in that particular topic or a subject expert in your own country, so that if in case there may be some changes in the therapeutic protocol according to different countries or different place of work, so that particular expert may depend on you, because that particular facility may not be available for the whole of the public in the Nepal. So that something needs to be done. Secondly, if in case an author is asked not to put a reviewers, not to put somebody's name in, not to put as a reviewers list, is that if in case there is some conflict of interest, maybe the person who is very known to you, who is a very known expert in that country, is basically a co-worker whose name may not have appeared in the name of the co-authors list. So to avoid that conflict of interest, if in case the authors can actually pinpoint that that particular expert may not be kept as a peer reviewer, then that helps the editor so that they can actually shelve off those people's names from the reviewers list. So that's the basic idea of putting the names of the people as a reviewer or not as a reviewer in the cover letter. Dr. Yam, please, do you have anything to add to this?
I think most of it's same thing, but like there could be I mean, sometimes it could be to your advantage. Like you have a reviewer, if it has 2 reviewers and you send to 2 reviewers whom you know or who are expert in the same field, I think it could be a bit of advantage to you also, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So there are no more questions, I guess. Manish? So are we at the end of the webinar?
I think we are at the end.
Okay, so
can everybody put their video on, please? Who would like to take a snapshot, please? Can everybody put their video on, please? Please. Yeah, thank you.
With
Manoj,
smile.
Dipendra,
with smile.
Sudeep, can you please put your video on, please? Manoj, Dipendra. Okay, anyway, so let's click. Thank you very much.